Krishna Kirtana Jananatana Paro Premritambo Nidhi Dira Dira Jana Priyo Priyakaro Nirmaskaro Pujito Shri Chaitanya Kripa Paro Bhuvi Bhuvo Bharavantarako Vande Rūpa Sanatano Raghuyako Shri Diva Gopalako Vande Rūpa Sanatano Raghuyako Shri Diva Gopalako Nana Shastra Vicharunaka Nipuno Sattharma Samsapako Lokanamita Karano Dibhuvane Manyo Jaranya Karo Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nandena Mataliko Vande Rūpa Sanatana Raghuyako Jiva Gopalako Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Matre Bhakti-vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nevisheta Sunyavadi Askachare Satarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Namaskarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So again, welcome everyone. Today we're going to be covering chapters 3 and 5 from the Nectar of Devotion. And I think the material should be up there now, Raghu. You should see it. In the Google Classroom. So, particularly today, we want to first remember our song here, the Sad Gosvāmī ISKCON. We just sang this verse. Nana Shastra Vicharanayaka Nipuno Sadharma Sanstapako Lokanam Hitukarano Tribhuvane Manyo Saranya Karo Radha Krishna Parara Vinda Bhajan Nandena Mataliko Bande Rūpa Sanatano Raghuyako Shri I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Shri Rūpa Gosvāmī, Shri Sanatana Gosvāmī, Shri Raghunath Bhatta Gosvāmī, Shri Raghunath Das Gosvāmī, Shri Jiva Gosvāmī, and Shri Gopal Bhatta Gosvāmī, who are very expert in scrutinizingly study all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they are honored all over the 3 worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. So this is our definition. Anyabhilasita sunyam jnanakarmadhyanavitam anukulena krishnanu-silanam bhakti-uttama. When first-class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires, knowledge obtained by monistic philosophy and fruitive action. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably, as Krishna desires. And again from Tatparatvaina Nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchate. Someone please confirm that the screen is correct. Anyone?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Bhakti or devotional service. Okay, we read this one. So let us go on. So lesson 5 review. We've defined the processes of sadhana bhakti and different analogies in Sanskrit verses from the Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu. We gave the distinction between Vaidhi and Raganuga sadhana bhakti and discussed the qualification for practicing devotional service in relation to Prabhupada's mood and mission. Quick review from chapter 1, 6 characteristics of pure devotional service. Kleshagni, immediate relief from all distresses. Shubhada, beginning of all auspiciousness. Moksha lagutakrit, derives even a conception of liberation. Sudurlabha, rarely achieved. Sundara-nanda visheshatma, automatically puts one in transcendental pleasure. And Sri Krishna Karshani, pure devotional service, is the only means to attract Krishna. And here we have these 6 all manifest. First two in sadhana bhakti, second 2 in bhava, and the last 2 of Chandrananda Visheshatma and Sri Krishna Karshani manifest with the others in prema bhakti. We talked about chapter 1, how papam, sin, gives reaction, arubdha, unmanifest, which gives kutam, sinful propensity, bijam, more sinful desires, and then the manifest reaction comes and begins a new cycle. 3 types of bhakti: sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, and prema bhakti. We covered those. Then we discussed specifically in last week's lesson that no one can take to devotional service unless he has some previous connection with devotional service. We discussed the definition of sadhana bhakti, which is the action of the senses, which produces the stage of bhava, and that is called sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti, devotional service in practice. For example, a child learns or practices to walk. Walking is not unnatural. Walking capacity is there originally in the child. He simply, by a little practice, he walks very naturally. So here we have the again, the definitions of what sadhana bhakti is like. And similarly, Krishna consciousness cannot be aroused simply by practice. There actually is no such practice. It is inherent in the living being. It just needs to be practiced to bring it out again. It's not created. So the process is we've got devotion for Krishna, but somehow we've forgotten. We become separated from Him. And so by the regular principles, by the order of the spiritual master, by the injunction of the Shastras, begin devotional service. Prabhupada says that is just like our students do here. So we are practicing, following the regular principles, the order of the spiritual master, following the instructions of the Shastra. So essence of sadhana, fix our mind on Krishna. Our duty is to follow, and the duty of the spiritual master is to find the ways and means for the disciple to fix his mind on Krishna. Krishna Kirtan is the standard best method for doing this sadhana. But Prabhupada very generously engaged us in many, many services, such as helping him with his translation, printing books, caring for the deities, serving the deities, and many other activities that go on in the temples and can go on in our own houses. These are all devotional services. So 2 types of sadhana bhakti: Vaidhi sadhana, which is in no love yet, but inspired only by the order of the spiritual master and the scriptures. A person must put themselves under the order of the spiritual master and the scriptures. And then Raganuga sadhana bhakti, where attraction for Krishna has already begun and eagerness develops for all forms of bhakti. The process of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, and where there is no attachment, no spontaneous loving service to Lord, and one is engaged in service simply out of obedience to the order of the spiritual master and pursuance of the scriptures. Such obligatory service is called Vaidhi bhakti. So, any questions on this review? Anything that needs to be additionally clarified for you? Some of you did the in-class exercise, making the drawings. I think it's a good effort. I hope you all try to do that. Thank you. Appreciate it for those who did it. I'm not hearing any questions, so I assume you all understand these very well. And we have no questions. Am I correct on that?
Yes, Prabhu.
Everyone? Yes, Prabhu. Okay. One thing I will want to emphasize, and that is, it is to your great benefit, and it's important for the course if you read the chapters before the class. Today we're going over chapters 3, 4, and 5. Mainly we're going to skip chapter 4 because it's a repeat about that devotional service surpasses the quality of liberation. So we've covered that in chapter 1, but discussion, but I do encourage you to read it, become familiar with what Śrīla Prabhupada says. Just for my knowledge, has anyone read chapter 3 or 5 today, as of today? Please speak up if you've read it recently.
I read half of it.
Okay.
Yes, Prabhu, yesterday.
Who was that?
Manmohan Das. I read it yesterday.
Okay. Anyone else?
I read the 3rd one, Prabhuji. Renuka.
You read chapter 3. Okay.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, so in the future, we're going to be going, I'm going to have to post what lessons we're going to do and what chapters we're going to cover, because we're going to be going a little faster. In the beginning, it was very important to understand what is pure devotional service and what are the characteristics and all that detail. But now we're going to go a little bit faster, especially in different rules and regulations. I do encourage you to read them, especially in advance of the discussion in class. So lesson 6, the independent nature of pure devotional service. Eligibility of the candidate for accepting devotional service. Is this right? Let me see. I thought so. Okay, no, this is Ya kenapi atibhagyena jatashadosya sevane nati sakto na vairagya bhag asyam adhikaryaso. A person who has developed faith in serving the Lord by previous impressions arising from previous association with the devotees, and who is not too attached to material objects and not too detached, is qualified for bhakti bhakti. So notice that it's repeating that there's a previous contact with devotional service, with previous association with devotees, and this association gives the seed of Krishna consciousness, seed of bhakti that's planted. And those should not be too materially attached or too detached. So those are very detached. Sometimes you'll meet like a Buddhist or something like that, and they're very difficult to get any interest because they just reject everything, and they're not interested in using everything to serve Krishna. Rather, they reject everything in the material world. And those who are too sensuous, too attached to the material world, they also have not much qualification because they are thinking only of their own enjoyment, their own personal situation, and they're not ready to serve Krishna. So what is required? Mercy of a devotee. Not overly attached, not overly detached. On account of his association with Mahatmas, or great souls, 100% in the devotional service of the Lord, one may attain a little bit of attraction to Sri Krishna. But at the same time, he may remain very much attached to fruitive activities and material sense enjoyment. Such a person, if he has unflinching attraction to Krishna, becomes an eligible candidate for discharging devotional service. So we see again the repeat of this idea of associating with great Mahatmas, devotees who have given themselves completely to Krishna, and that he has to develop a little unflinching attraction to Krishna. In advancing for Krishna in devotional service, there are different rankings or different stages. There's the Kanishta, the Madhyama, and the Uttama. And these are defined according to their levels of faith and knowledge in the scriptures. So, let's start with the Uttama. He is completely convinced that Krishna consciousness is the only path in life, and he's fully dedicated himself to it. And he has deep knowledge of the scriptures, so he's able to convince others by logic and argument and presentation. The Madhyama, on the other hand, he is also fully convinced that Krishna consciousness is the only proper goal of life, but he doesn't have as much knowledge, therefore he cannot always defeat the opposing opinions. And the Kanishta, his faith is very weak and fragile. It can be influenced by others who have strong argument or big influence. And he cannot offer any arguments because he doesn't understand the scripture. He doesn't know the scripture, the Vedas. So these are the people that are eligible for advancing in devotional service. Now for the neophyte, the Kanishta, there's further classification according to the 4 categories that Krishna gives in the Bhagavad Gita of 4 types of men that come to him, meaning they're interested because of some motivation in coming to serve Krishna. So first, Arto. The person is suffering a lot, like Gajendra, who was being bitten by the crocodile and moving towards death rapidly. So he was motivated by his suffering to approach Krishna, and he offered beautiful prayers. And so he was accepted at that point as a devotee. Jigyasur, inquiring. The sages at Naimisharanya, who heard the Bhagavatam, they were inquiring. They wanted to know the absolute truth and the goal of life. So they were putting many inquiries. And thus they were given qualification to hear the Bhagavatam. Artha-arthi, they want wealth. They're eager to get some wealth. That was Maharaj Rūpa. He wanted a kingdom greater than that of his grandfather, Lord Brahma. And of course, because of that, he was eager to take and follow the instructions of Narada Muni. He went to the forest in Vrindavan, practiced his meditation and his mantra, and saw Krishna in 6 months. At which time, he renounced that desire for wealth. And Gyani, the philosopher, the Kumaras, 4 Kumaras, they were impersonalists. But when they got to smell the flavor of the tulsi leaves offered to the lotus feet of Krishna, they became turned into devotees. So here we have these classifications of people that do approach Krishna, but they are not actually, at that point of turning to Krishna, engaged in devotional service. So, Prabhupada further describes in Nectar Devotion, page 31, such beginners can be elevated to the 2nd class or 1st class platform if they associate with pure devotees. So that is the way of elevating oneself. In whatever condition one may be, if he is fortunate enough to associate with pure devotees, then very quickly he's elevated to the 2nd class or 1st class platform. So here we have the Kanishta, the person whose faith is very weak, who doesn't understand scriptures, but by associating with advanced devotees, pure devotees, he develops that faith, he learns the practices, and quickly he comes to the 2nd class and even the 1st class platform. So this is the process of advancement. A wise man who becomes attached to Krishna does not want any return from him, either in the form of relieving distress or in gaining money. That means from the very beginning, his basic principle of attachment to Krishna is more or less love. So here Prabhupada is repeating this anya vilasata sunyam jnana karmadi anabhitam, that just being attached to Krishna without expecting any result, or even relief from distress. And that is considered the foundation of love. Without the position of a Gyan or a wise man, one stick to the principle of worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It can be concluded that a person who is free from the bodily concept of life is an eligible candidate for pure devotional service. So here we can say that a person has to develop knowledge. Knowledge given from the Shastra, knowledge given from the Guru, and stick to exclusively worshiping Krishna and no one else. This is the principle for bhakti. If he is still worshiping any other deva or any other lesser being, he will not be successful. He may fall down from that position. And similarly, if he remains in the bodily concept of life, he won't be able to attain pure devotional service. There's more prayers of that, and then you will see them. Now, in this particular, because Nectar devotion is talking about devotion to who? Krishna. So here, in the Nectar devotion, Prabhupada clarifies some things. Some of the liberated persons who have achieved these 4 stages of liberation may also develop affection for Krishna and be promoted to Goloka Vrindavan planet in the spiritual sky. In other words, those who are already promoted to Vaikuntha planets and who possess the 4 kinds of liberation may sometimes develop affection for Krishna and become promoted to Krishna Loka.
Do you know what the 4 kinds of liberation are?
That's a right question. Any question or clarification? Anything somebody want to have further discussion? Ananta says she wants to know about what are the 4 liberation.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Prabhuji, what are the 4 kinds of liberation? Because there are 5 kinds of liberation I heard somewhere, so can you explain that?
Well, first one is to become one with the Supreme. Second one is to
In other words, to merge. Explain it.
emerge into the effulgence of Krishna. Second one is to have the same bodily form and features as the Lord. Third is to stay on the same planet as the Lord. Fourth would be to, what was the fourth one?
Krishna's association.
Yeah, Krishna association, and I'm sorry, those ones are not on the top of my tongue, unfortunately. But there are. Shubha Vilas, are you there for any help with this?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes,
Yes.
so there is one called Sarupya. Roop means form, so same form. Sa means same. So, Samipya means in the same proximity. Samip. So
Same planet.
that's Salokya.
Oh.
Lok means planet. And Sarshti is the same opulence.
Ah,
And
that's right.
Sayujya, this is the worst, like the lowest is to merge in the impersonal effulgence, to become one with the Lord. So, yes. And Samipya is to live in proximity, as a companion of the Lord. So there are 4 plus 1, but 1 I believe is kind of ignored here because we, as Vaishnavas, we don't even talk about it because it is not the goal. Sayujya.
Exactly. Thank you. More questions?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, you are telling that to have strong faith and devotion, one should know the knowledge and Geni. So, has to be Geni. My question is, if somebody is illiterate, is there it is a hindrance for them to be a great devotee? Because they cannot read or write, or sometimes may not understand all the technical things or something.
Well, Prabhupada gives the example, and Lord Chaitanya also, that one must have very deep, firm faith in the spiritual master, and then even an illiterate person may be able to achieve this level of pure devotion. The example is there of the illiterate Brahmin who was trying to read Bhagavad Gita as his spiritual master ordered every day, and Lord Chaitanya saw him and saw that he was crying. He asked him what was going on. He said, my spiritual master ordered me to read the Bhagavad Gita every day, but I'm illiterate, I can't read. But I simply see the picture of Krishna driving the chariot of Arjuna, and I am overwhelmed how the Supreme Personality of Godhead could have become the chariot driver of Arjuna, and I'm filled with ecstatic feelings. So he is executing the order of the spiritual master, and then it becomes possible. So the spiritual master can make adjustments if a person is illiterate. Although these days there are so many recordings that there's kind of like no excuse why one wouldn't know more about the scriptures. Why, do you know someone that's illiterate that's having trouble?
No, Prabhuji. Just because they might not be in our parampara, because Prabhupada started in 1965. So before, when I was a very small kid, I saw some sadhus, even from Gaudiya Math and those. They might not be that type of education, but at that time it looked to me that they are very good devotee, very elevated souls. So that's why I'm asking, because that previous side was saying that it should have the theoretical knowledge to understand everything and to be a great devotee. That's why I'm asking.
And there's also another verse, I forget if it's in the Bhagavad Gita, but it says, by one who has unflinching faith in the spiritual master and executes his order very dutifully, that this knowledge will automatically develop in his heart by the mercy of the spiritual master. Krishna arranges that the knowledge is already automatically revealed in the heart. Shubha Vilas, do you know that verse? Anyway, maybe we'll get it later. Go ahead.
I have another question.
Okay, and not that.
So what if you live on a desert island? How do you get good association?
You live on a desert island.
How do you get, pure devotee?
How you get associated? Well, the question would be, how do you even get a Bhagavad Gita on a desert island?
Okay. If you're, in a place where you don't think there's any good association.
Anyway, Krishna, for one who is sincere, arranges for one to contact and meet the spiritual master.
There is a nice verse, Prabhu, if you allow. I shared in the chat. Very nice verse in this regard.
Go ahead.
So I'll just read the translation, English translation. It's posted in the chat also. So where was Hunter Dharma's piety? Where was Dhruva's maturity? Where was Gajendra's knowledge? Where was Kubja's beauty? Where was Sudama's wealth? Where was Vidura's noble birth? And where was Ugrasena's chivalrous strength? Lord Madhava, or Krishna, is pleased only by devotional service, not by material qualification. In short, the point is that Kubja was not very beautiful. Gajendra was an animal, was not very learned. Sudama was not very wealthy. But one quality which they all had was sincere devotional service. That attracted, that pleased Krishna.
Yes. So other questions? Or can we go on? What is your question?
What if you don't have a good association with the author?
So my wife continues to ask, what if you don't have the association of pure devotee? Now we know that there may be some cases where a person somehow gets a book or hears about Krishna. And there is even, one Swami from Russia I met a couple of years ago. He said that somehow, when it was during the communist time, he saw a devotee chanting on the beads. And he asked him what he was chanting. He gave him a written card because he didn't want to be seen speaking to him. And he did not get any books or anything. So this devotee went away, and for a year and a half he practiced chanting the mantra. He even carved his own beads out of very rough beads out of wood. And because of the situation of the communist control, everyone was afraid to openly speak about it, because if they were caught, they would be arrested and put in jail and probably tortured. So for 1 year or year and a half, he went on chanting like that on these beads. And the beads were so poorly made that if you rubbed, held them in your fingers and vibrated them, you would probably, in an hour, you would have very bloody fingers because they were so rough. But he didn't know anything more than that. And then later on, he met another devotee. After a year and a half, he was chanting, and the devotee told him about Bhagavad Gita. He didn't tell him a lot. He just told him there is this book, Bhagavad Gita, and you should get it. So somehow or other, he got a copy of it. He started reading it. And then he met devotees and got much more association then. So Krishna can arrange all these things. And he can get a lot of instruction from Prabhupada's books as well. And there have been occasional incidences where a person doesn't get the association of devotees, but simply has Prabhupada's book and he practices whatever he can understand, and he becomes very devoted. They're rare, but they do happen. All right, let's go on. There are many kinds of devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who is attracted to the original form of Lord Krishna in Vrindavan is considered to be the foremost, first-class devotee. Such a devotee is never attracted by the opulences of Vaikuntha or even Dwarka, the royal city where Krishna ruled. The conclusion of Sri Rūpa Gosvāmī is that the devotees who are attracted by the pastimes of the Lord in Gokula or Vrindavan are the topmost devotees. So here we're distinguishing. There are other persons, and maybe in other sampradayas, who are devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But they may not be attracted to Lord Krishna or may not know much about him. But those who are actually worshipping Lord Krishna in his Vrindavan feature are considered the best. So we should always have that clear idea in our mind, because we do occasionally meet others from other sampradayas, and they're sincere and they're worshipping, but they're mainly worshipping Vishnu or maybe even Krishna and Dwarka. So now I want you to follow this. This is a series of quotes from chapter 5, beginning a couple pages of chapter 5 of Nectar Devotion. Because we're going to have an exercise at the end of this reading, and you have to grasp the concepts of this to be able to do the exercise. As long as one is materially inclined or desirous of merging into the spiritual effulgence, one cannot enter into the realm of pure devotional service. So we heard that in the beginning, qualifications. Next, Rūpa Gosvāmī states that devotional service is transcendental to all material considerations, and that it is not limited to any particular country, class, society, or circumstance. So there's no group that has a exclusive right on Krishna consciousness, devotional service. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, devotional service is transcendental and has no cause. Devotional service is executed without any hope for gain, and it cannot be checked by any material circumstances. It is open for all without any distinction, and it is the constitutional occupation of the living entities. So here, many of these concepts we've been hearing for the past few weeks, and they're again repeated here. What is the quality of this devotional service? A class of priestly persons. This is in the history. After Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda left this world, there was a class of priestly persons who claimed to be the descendants of Nityananda, calling themselves the the Gosvāmī caste. They further claimed that the practice and spreading of devotional service belonged only to their particular class, which was known as Nityananda Vamsa. In this way, they exercised their artificial power for some time until Śrīla Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the powerful Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, completely smashed their idea. There was a great hard struggle for some time, but it turned out successfully, and it is now correctly and practically established that devotional service is not restricted to a particular class of men. Besides that, anyone who is engaged in devotional service is already at the status of a high-class Brahmin. So Śrīla Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's struggle for this movement has come out successful. So here we can see different aspects of the Prabhupada's presented. First is that Prabhupada's guru, Śrīla Bhaktisiddhanta, did some very essential work in establishing the superiority of Krishna Bhakti to the position and the right for Krishna Bhakti as presented by the six Gosvāmīs, that it doesn't belong to any particular one group. It's not only for persons coming from India. It's not only for persons who claim their followers, the caste Gosvāmīs from Nityananda, or they're not even the status of high-class Brahmins. That sometimes people say, oh, you have to be a first-class Brahmin before you can engage in devotional service. All others must wait until they take a birth as a Brahmin. So all this was defeated and clearly established these principles of universality by Śrīla Bhaktisiddhanta. Very, very powerful Acharya. Now we'll see how Prabhupada was able to build on this. It is on the basis of his position that anyone can now become a Gaudiya Vaishnava. Again, anyone can become a Gaudiya Vaishnava. That means even if they're a human being, can become a Gaudiya Vaishnava. We're not speaking about other forms of life at this point, but humans especially. From any part of the world or any part of the universe even. So that's there. Anyone who is a pure Vaishnava is situated transcendentally and therefore the highest qualification in the material world, namely to be in the mode of goodness, has already been achieved by such a person. So here we're saying that those who are Vaishnavas, they're already in the topmost level of human society and situated in the mode of goodness. Very, very amazing. So you can see that Prabhupada applied this very generously as he went to every major continent in the world and tried to establish Krishna consciousness, not just with any one class, but with the local people, whoever they may be. Our Krishna consciousness movement in the Western world is based on the above-mentioned proposition of Śrīla Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Gosvāmī Prabhupada, our spiritual master. On his authority, we are claiming members from all sections of the Western countries. All sections. There is no group that is excluded. Now we see the devotees carrying forth Prabhupada's mission are actively translating his books into many, many languages all over the world to make this knowledge available so that people can become devotees and practice. And the GBC, Prabhupada's governing body commission, his disciples and disciples formed to oversee the preaching activities of this movement. They actually have systematically divided up the whole world and assigned different personalities responsibility for developing the preaching movement in those different parts of the world. The Rūpa mentions herein that every man has the birthright to accept devotional service and to become Krishna conscious. He has given many evidences from many scriptures, and he has especially quoted one passage from the Padma Purana, wherein the sage Vashishta tells King Dilip, "My dear king, everyone has the right to execute devotional service, just as he has the right to take early bath in the month of Magh, December, January." There is more evidence in the Skanda Purana, in the Kashi Kanda portion, where it is said, in the country known as Mayura Dwaja, the lower caste people who are considered less than Shudras are also initiated in the Vaishnava cult of devotional service. And when they are properly dressed with tilak on their bodies and beads in their hands and beads on their necks, they appear to be coming from Vaikuntha. In fact, they look so very beautiful that they immediately surpass the ordinary Brahmins. So we should keep this very clearly in the mind that wherever we go, whoever we meet, we can tell them about Krishna. Not just people of our own background, but anyone. So we just read through the sections from chapter 5 of pages 47 and 48 on the purity of devotional service. So we've done that now. What is Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī's principle regarding who can practice devotional service? So who will give me the answer to this one? Please, someone speak up.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
Anyone who has no material desires and even no desire for liberation.
Okay. But please define that anyone.
So anyone is situated transcendentally in the highest qualification, material world, so and complete surrender to Krishna can practice that one.
Okay. And practically, what would that mean? Who could you speak to? Go ahead. Someone speaking? Vipul, are you there?
Yes, Prabhuji. So from the last slide, it is like any person, from any color, any race, any education, any birth, and
Any language.
any language, yes. So who has desire to serve Lord and his devotees and can practice devotional service, has faith, that means.
Not too attached.
Yes, they have to be not overly attached and not overly absorbed in sense gratification. But they have to get the devotee's mercy. Very interesting. Anyone else want to make some answer here?
Sorry, Krishna Prabhuji, you mentioned earlier that if someone has previous connection with devotional service.
Yes, that's Rūpa Gosvāmī's statement. Previous lifetime often.
Yes.
In other words, they may have seen devotees chanting Krishna's names and heard that. They may have received some prasadam. They may have somehow seen or heard Bhagavad Gita, some shlokas. they may have had some contact with some article offered to the Lord, like a flower, or they may have seen a temple, even from a distance. So many things, when they add up sufficiently, then there's an opportunity. But the biggest qualification is what?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The biggest qualification is to have association with devotees.
Yes. So, are you capable of giving that association?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
He's giving now, Prabhuji.
What was that?
She's giving us the association right now.
Yes. Yes. But we're saying we can also reach out to others who are not with us now. This is the principle of outreach in book distribution, prasadam distribution, to give people that opportunity to become pious enough to get that association that they can take up devotional service. Otherwise, they won't be able to. It may be at least not on this point. Hello? Someone was trying to speak?
Taking shelter of bona fide spiritual master, one who takes shelter.
Yes. Yeah. Bona fide spiritual master is there, but Prabhupada deputized his disciples to go everywhere and spread Krishna consciousness, even to places he never visited. And then as a result, temples were established.
And Prabhuji performing kirtan also?
Yes, kirtan is very important. That this is the method of worshiping the Lord, and it creates faith and piety in the ears and the hearts of the listeners.
All creatures.
Yeah, even non-humans get some benefit. Okay, let me see here if we can get this back. Okay, so what additional evidence is there to support this principle? And I shouldn't have given you the clue there, but I did on the screen about Nityananda Vamsa and Śrīla Bhakti-vedanta. I'm sorry, I'm making it too easy. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's too easy. Nityananda Vamsa, he formed his own select group of Gosvāmīs, formed a Gosvāmī caste, and so he said it was exclusively for them. And Bhakti-siddhanta, Śrīla Bhakti-siddhanta defeated him in that argument and opened it to everyone.
Yes. Was there any other group that he was very effective in defeating that you can recall from our discussion? What about the Brahmins? There are those who are caste Brahmins, and they say that no one can become a devotee until they have been at least a Brahmin. And you cannot become a Brahmin if you are not born in a Brahmin family. So therefore they don't accept devotees from the Western countries as bona fide. One may say there's some evidence of this, like in Jagannath Puri, they do not let Western people into the temple to have darshan of the deity. You're all aware of that?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes.
I don't know, I heard maybe there are other temples that have some rules like that, but I don't remember which ones.
Yes, Prabhuji, even in South India, like Kerala, there are a few temples where, they don't allow.
So would Śrīla Bhakti-vedanta accept that?
No.
No.
Correct. But Prabhupada said we should just tolerate.
The favorite example of Haridas.
And have as an example Haridas Thakur, who was born in a Muslim family. He could never enter the Jagannath temple, but he resided on the shore of the ocean there in Nilachala and simply meditated on the top flag on the temple. And for him, that was darshan of the deity. And every day, Lord Chaitanya would go to visit him personally at his ashram. He was such a great devotee. So any other questions or comments here?
Prabhuji, when I was watching the Prabhupada series and made by Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu Maharaj, so one group of caste Brahmin, they tried to kill even Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu Maharaj. This is the same Gosvāmī caste?
I didn't quite follow that. You're saying disciples of Śrīla Bhakti-vedanta?
No, the caste Brahmins are this.
Yeah, they're good caste Brahmin. They tried to kill even Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu Maharaj.
Yes.
So this is the same Gosvāmī caste?
Huh?
Is it the same as the Nityananda Vamsa?
Well, I know that Śrīla Bhaktivedanta, at a very young age, he was sent by his father to establish the superiority of Vaishnavas compared to Brahmins. And he was successful in presenting that. And later on, there was an incident where some people were collaborating and bribing the police to go assassinate Śrīla Bhaktivedanta. I'm a little unfamiliar with exactly which group that was. But I know even in our Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan, when Prabhupada opened that and had the installation ceremony, the local Brahmins from the local temples were invited to perform the ceremony because Prabhupada said, if I did not invite them, they would not recognize our temple as a bona fide temple. He said, actually, simply our chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra by our own devotees was sufficient for the installation. But for their benefit, I allowed them to come and perform the installation ceremony. That was in Vrindavan. Now Vrindavan has changed so much and people accept ISKCON devotees. And there's not so much problem. So, this is the concluding question. How is this principle that we've been discussing, Rūpa Gosvāmī's principle, who can practice devotional service, how is it relevant for the development of the Krishna consciousness worldwide movement? Go ahead.
Yeah, Krishna, it opens up the door for aspiring devotees from all over the world to join the Krishna consciousness movement. Bhakti-vedanta.
Okay. That's part of it. More?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. As there is no barrier of caste and any language barrier, there is no difference between the people, so all people are treated same. Whoever will come to the Krishna consciousness, all of them will be welcomed.
Okay, they can come.
And Hare Krishna Prabhu, and Rūpa Gosvāmī also mentioned that every man has the birthright to accept devotional service and to become Krishna conscious.
Only the men?
No, every people.
Okay. So they have the birthright, so take it to the next stage. What if everyone has that right, then what does that mean for this movement, what we should do? You said we should accept them, but what does that mean we should do? We wait for them to come to find us?
No, we have to go out and preach.
Go ahead. Go ahead, speak.
Mataji, go ahead. I don't know.
We have to do what?
Preaching. Outreach.
Does that mean we should only stand in front of Patel brothers and preach?
Yeah, that's what we can. Yeah, Patel brothers, any place, Prabhuji. There's no hard and fast restrictions.
Very good. Very good. I know Tamal Krishna Maharaj, who develop the preaching in Texas. He had many Indian disciples there in Houston. And he told them, I know I will have taught you successfully when my Indian disciples bring Western people to the movement. So any other comment here or realization?
Prabhuji, yeah, this might be a question actually. So when Śrīla Prabhupada was on this planet, in fact there were more Westerners getting attracted. But
yes.
Now, I was told that not many Westerners are showing interest. So is it because of Śrīla Prabhupada's movement, because his charishma that no longer is there, something like that?
I would not say it in that way. What I would say is that, of course, Lord Chaitanya has given the order to everyone from Bharatvarsha that they should take this movement and take up this chanting very seriously, right? Was ever born in this land of Bharata, they should take this as their life's mission, to take up this work. So that's part of what's happening. More of those people are taking it up. When Prabhupada started the movement, he actually started before he came to America. He started in a town called Jhansi, and he preached there for some time, more than a year, I believe, and he only had one disciple for all that effort. People were not interested in taking it seriously and following. So Prabhupada knew he was given that order to go to the West and preach, so he did that. And then he brought his Western disciples back to India to show the Indian people that the Westerners are doing what you're not doing, taking up this Krishna consciousness. And then some of them gradually became interested. So Prabhupada, I think he had some desire or some thought to first establish Krishna consciousness more in India, but his order was to go to the West. And now what is happening is that the people, we have approached many people of Indian descent all over the world, and they more easily take to Krishna consciousness because it is their cultural heritage. Many things are much easier for them to follow and accept. And they come quickly, they come easily, and they also help financially to support this movement, which has struggled at different points in time to maintain and expand. Now we can see how broadly it's expanded, even in India. Like there's like, I don't know, 15 or 20 temples just in Delhi, where there was only one when Prabhupada was present. And there's so many in Mumbai, and there's so many other places. And of course, Prabhupada had us establish the Temple of Vedic Planetarium as the world headquarters for Krishna consciousness. So these are my own thoughts, that I think it would not look well if we only preach to Westerners, but Indians are not interested. Then people question, is this really authentic movement? So I don't blame anyone, but I do see Krishna has made certain arrangements to help this movement get established. But our efforts, our personal efforts, must remain strong to preach to the local people in the countries we are in. Prabhupada, when he sent his disciples to Africa to preach, and then he visited there, they held some programs shortly when he came in. And mainly only Indian families were coming to the programs. So Prabhupada turned to his disciples who were preaching there and he said, "Where are the local people, the Africans? I sent you here to make them into devotees as well." So then the next night onwards, they held programs and many of the local Africans were coming. And they were hearing the kirtan and very enthusiastic, and they were hearing and taking prasadam. They didn't understand the philosophy so well, but gradually they're taking to it. So it is an emphasis given by Lord Chaitanya and by Śrīla Prabhupada that we preach to everyone. And I will say that the leaders of this movement are very concerned that more people from the West need to take up Krishna consciousness to show that, that we need to make more of a focus. So it is a constant endeavor, and some people are more successful at this than others. It does appear that, in the West, people's moral values have degraded to such a point that all the four regular principles are broken on a daily basis by most people. So it becomes very difficult. I know one Swami who preaches in New Zealand, and he doesn't even ask them to follow the four regular principles until they have at least been chanting for 6 months or a year. The culture in New Zealand is so fallen that a young girl, 14 or 16 years old, if she has a boyfriend, the parents expect the boyfriend to come home and live with the girl, even though they're not married. Otherwise, their family may be embarrassed. "Oh, my daughter has no such boyfriend." So these principles that we have are sometimes very confusing and difficult for them. And it's a challenge, but still, it's meant for everyone. And so we're chanting and distributing books very widely. Very widely. Anyone else want to make any comment or question?
Prabhuji, I just want to say that reaching out to Westerners is great and response has been fantastic. But like also Easterners, like maybe China, Korea, Japan. Like I only met one Korean that I can think of who was interested and kind of a disciple. But just kind of curious, like what is the reception that Krishna consciousness now has in like the Eastern places? And should we do any outreach to a major Eastern population in the U.S. Yeah.
In the U.S. or in those countries?
Both actually, but since we are here, if we can do anything here.
Well, like I know, for example, just a simple example, but at the USF program last fall, we were chanting Hare Krishna in our room in the USF building, and some Chinese people walked by and they heard the kirtan and they came and sat down and participated in the whole kirtan, and they liked it very much. They were visiting for a few months from China, and they just came, and this is the first time they heard it, and they didn't know what it was, and they liked it. So, you know, their opportunities may be there. I know that in China, they have been working very diligently for the last 25 years to spread Krishna consciousness there, which is difficult under the communist governments. And as a result, there's several thousand initiated devotees in China, spread all over the different parts of China. But still, it's very difficult because at any time the Chinese government can arrest a foreign devotee and send him out of the country, or arrest a local Chinese person and put them in the prison. This is always a possibility. In Japan, they've been preaching even back from the days when they were building the Krishna Balaram temple. It's a little difficult there because the people are very materialistic, we could say. They're very attached to the materialistic way of life, and so they're less attractive. They do the same programs there and the same feasts and everything, but difficult. Still, they're making some. Korea, similar problem. You know, the people are, there are some interested people, but it's much rarer.
Yeah, okay. I'm just wondering, you know, of course, now that we are in the US, maybe we should first reach out to listeners here. Like, maybe like once Corona allows us to start again the outreach, you know, physically. So, should we think of any places other than Patel Brothers? You know, maybe like so University of the US is basically one place that's kind of well covered. But should we try any other universities in the Tampa area also?
Well, I won't say that University of South Florida is covered. I'm doing something, not as much as we should be doing, and not nearly as much as they're doing in Gainesville. Because it's just myself and my wife, and we don't live in Tampa, so we have less energy to put into the program. We do get Westerners sometimes to our programs, but it's difficult to keep them regularly. It's kind of like the message has to be a little more introductory with them, because oftentimes they don't, as soon as they hear the word God or Scripture, then they'll get up and leave. This is one tendency. The Westerners have become so jaded and atheistic-minded because of poor quality of religious leaders in the world, that they kind of reject organized religion and authorized scriptures.
Understood, Prabhuji.
But yes, we should find some ways and means so that when we do the Rath Yatra on Clearwater Beach, we meet a lot of Western people. And I know several years ago we were doing book distribution in places other than Patel Brothers, but I don't remember what they were.
Yeah, part of the problem. Sorry, go ahead, Prabhuji.
No, that's it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so part of the problem is that we are free only on weekends for the book distribution events. By then, these colleges and universities are, basically mostly closed, I guess. So that's one issue. So we need to think of a place on weekends that we can just do book distribution, just put a table of books and, let Krishna help us out there.
Well, like for example, there is a vegan festival that happens every year in Tampa and in other parts of the other big cities around the world, U.S. also. Devotees from Alachua had tried to go there, but somehow we were rejected by them because they felt we were not true vegans. They somehow knew about us enough that they've gone. You know, they were successful in joining the vegan festival in Gainesville and in Tallahassee and in Jacksonville, but here in Tampa they had a little trouble. So maybe we can see. Maybe we can do that. Other things, you know, we have to research what opportunities we can have.
Yes.
Anything else?
Guruji, like recently, 2 Western devotees came. Recently means a couple of months back when Sudhir Prabhu's at Sudhir Prabhu's home we had program. You remember? Morning to Mataji's Western devotees came. So
yes.
I probably don't know them. I just know that they came.
They used to come earlier also, Prabhuji. Even they came, you know, on that day she told, right? She used to come, but now she said that it's too far. So they are still, you know, I think doing, you know, sadhana, but not regularly. I don't know.
So we can reach out to them and can maintain a contact, but you have to be a little sensitive and understand by hearing from them what their level of ability to follow and what their level of understanding is. And speaking to them is a little different than speaking to an Indian person, because their understanding or acceptance of Bhagavad Gita and sometimes even of vegetarianism is a big change, you know. So we have like books of Science of Self-Realization, Higher Taste, Perfection of Yoga. So it puts it more down on the level where they may be more comfortable. And this becomes our expertise to be able to speak with them. So we can see, we talked about the Madhyamadhikari cannot always present and defeat, you know, convince others of Krishna consciousness because he doesn't have sufficient knowledge. Sometimes that happens. So, the more we know, just like this whole Nectar devotional class, we're learning now that this is what Rūpa Gosvāmī and Lord Chaitanya wanted, to give this message to everyone. It wasn't just like, hey, that might be cool, or we could try that. But this is actually the intention, and it was established by Śrīla Bhaktivedanta. So it's really the heart. This is what makes ISKCON different from every other Vaishnava organization in the world. Because we follow and accept that every human being is capable of practicing devotional service. You know, it's different than all other kind of Hindu or Vaishnava groups. You know, you can see those in the Sri Sampradaya, Ramanuja Sampradaya, they don't particularly preach to Westerners. In fact, they may not even preach so much. So this is totally different. It is practically a part of our sadhana. Go ahead, someone else had something?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I just would like to add that to Sudhir Prabhuji's house, the one Mataji came, her name is Kai, and she came with Eva Mataji, I think. So I contacted her twice to come to the satsang, and she's very enthusiastic, and she told that, yeah, I will come, I have some work like that, but and then that satsang she missed, and then again I called her, like, how are you doing, Mataji, please try to come. She said, yes, I will come definitely, and her name is, I think, Kai.
Okay, very good.
She lives in Naples. I believe maybe that Shubhavilash Prabhuji was talking about that Mataji. But the Mataji I contacted. Her name is Kai, and she came to the morning program to Sudhir Prabhu's house with Eva Mataji.
Well, good. We need to reach out. That's very good. One thing that's a little different for Westerners is the women are not used to be calling Mataji or mother until they've been a devotee for some time. So just so you know, when you call them and say that you're a mother, they're going to look at you and say, what? I don't have any kids. I'm not a mother. So it's a concept they're not familiar with.
No, actually, she used to come to the Naples program. That's what she told me in ISKCON Naples. That's what she told, and then she discontinued, and that's what she told me last time when I talked to her.
All right, there was a program Sarasota, but I don't know of Naples. But anyway, yeah. I think another thing is out there is that we see, especially on Facebook, there are Western groups on Facebook, like Kirtan group for Tampa, Kirtan group for Sarasota. They like us. They like our Kirtan, but we don't reach out to them very often. Sometimes Vishwambar will come and go there, but we only do very, very occasionally. Like this Joe from Sarasota, he likes ISKCON a lot. He loves Kirtan. He loves our Kirtan. Go ahead. Anything else, or shall we move on?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Eva Mataji was also very regular, but recently she may not join us.
I don't know if it's me or you. You're kind of fading out. Hello?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I was telling about Eva Mataji. Eva Mataji was also very regular, but nowadays, like, we are not seeing her in any...
Eva?
Yeah, Eva Mataji.
Yeah, I'm talking to her. She's had some experiences that didn't go well for her. And I'm trying to work that out with her. Right now, she's not very happy. So I think
she also kind of
unless you're
a few days also ago also Prabhuji about Lena. I mean, so I suggested her to talk to you and Shubhavilash Prabhu.
Yeah, we talked, but she's gone in the wrong conclusion right now. So we have to take, and I think just one or two people should be in contact with her, maybe. Except, if you want to send her a friendly hello, how are you doing? She's in a very difficult struggle right now.
Yeah.
This is the problem for Western people. Their faith can be shaken very easily until they become established.
Yeah, Mataji was talking about leadership and all those things. That's why I directed to you and Shubhavilash Prabhu.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally aware of her situation more than most, and I don't think we should discuss her right now in this thing.
Yes,
would not be appropriate.
And other two devotees, they were also coming. They actually used to, live in Gainesville, University of Florida, but I think they moved to near Clearwater. So those are two students actually. So they come once in a while, but not very. After 2 years they came. but they said it's too far for us. But we follow, online.
Oh, that's another question, whether in the future we can have some program in places like Clearwater or St. Petersburg just for those people. It would be a different format, a little simpler. But that's a different discussion we can maybe have tomorrow. So let me go on here. Chapter 5 especially talks about the purity of devotional service. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered that Priti Vitae, all over the world, as many towns and villages as they are, my name will be established there. So we are trying to do that. So his name should be established. That does not mean they should remain as Yavanas or Malechas, and they simply should know about Lord Chaitanya. No, actually the fact is everyone should be elevated to the position of Vaishnava, purified Vaishnava. So we're not simply telling people, yes, there's Lord Chaitanya, but they should practice. And that what it takes to do that is different, maybe, for them in the sense of what their challenges are. Now, another feature, though, to know, it's very important, yata kanshanatam yati kamsyam rasa viranata tata diksha viranena dvijatvam jayate ninam. Hari Bhakti Vilas, chapter 2, text 12. Any person who is properly initiated into the Vaishnava cult certainly becomes a Brahmin. As much as metal known as Kamsa, bell metal, is turned into gold by the mixture of mercury. Now, we may not know that process, how to turn bell metal into gold, but there is supposedly a process about that we're not familiar with. But the point is that anyone, by associating with devotees, following, can become a Brahmin. Is there a question here? Okay. One still has to follow the rules and regulations very carefully. If after accepting the spiritual master and becoming initiated, one does not follow the rules and regulations of devotional service, then he is again fallen. One must be very vigilant to remember that he is part and parcel of the transcendental body of Krishna, and that his duty as part and parcel is to give service to the whole, or Krishna. If we do not render service to Krishna, then again we fall down. In other words, simply becoming initiated does not elevate one to the position of a high-class Brahmin. One also has to discharge the duties and follow the regular principles very rigidly. So there have been many bogus gurus who just give some sort of initiation and give some mantra, and then they don't tell their followers any particular rules to follow. So we're not that kind of movement. You just get initiated and that's it. You have to continue to discharge the duties and regular principles very rigidly. Now Prabhupada gives a little different angle. Even if circumstantially there is some fall down, the Vaishnava need not have nothing to do with the prayaschita. One who has taken to bhakti or devotional service, Lord, need have nothing to do with karma or jnana. So prayaschita is like an atonement process. I made some mistake, some sin, and then I have to atone. So Prabhupada said there's no such thing for a Vaishnava. If by chance or mistake he does something which is forbidden, there is no need for him to perform any purificatory ceremonies, because the Lord is situated within his heart. He takes compassion for the devotee's accidental mistake and corrects him from within. So, any questions on these last sections?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, I have a question about just the last point you mentioned. So studied or discussed that if there is a Vaishnava aparadh, there is immediate fall down. If a devotee hurts another devotee or something like that, there is immediate fall down.
He doesn't chant the 16 rounds, or he doesn't follow the regular principles. That's a fall down from the vows. Yes, go ahead.
But here Prabhupada is saying that you don't have to do any ceremonies for purification.
Yeah, purification or atonement. Correct.
So then I'm not very clear in that section, Prabhuji.
I didn't follow your last statement there. What is your question?
So my question is that if the Vaishnava aparadh, it's a Vaishnava aparadh, if someone does a Vaishnava aparadh, so there's a fall down in their service. But here says if someone did any mistake which is forbidden, should not perform any purification ceremonies, then how devotee can again can take that same stage where he was before doing the aparadh?
This is you're a little bit mixing the concepts here. We'll talk more next week about aparadhs, because in devotional service there are different things that we should do, 64 items that we either should do or should avoid. And then there's additional ones for, regarding the holy tirthas, regarding other things, aspects. So here it's talking about mainly one ceases to act or does something which should not be done. If he's committing offenses, one of the 10 offenses against the holy name, like a Vaishnava aparadh or Guru aparadh, or aparadhs against the holy, any of the 10 aparadhs against the holy name, there's another whole discussion. What is the process to change from that? In some cases, like a Vaishnava aparadh, doesn't get adjusted until one gets the forgiveness of the devotee. And that may even include that if the devotee is unaware or doesn't take offense, there still may be a reaction. That is another whole section of discussion. So, Vaishnava aparadh is very dangerous, as you probably have heard, but is not exactly what we're talking about here.
Oh, okay, Prabhuji. Sorry. Thank you.
Vaishnava aparadh, the 10 offenses, one also, at the time of initiation, tells the Guru, I will avoid the 10 offenses, which is including Vaishnava aparadh. There's a little different category, and the problem with Nam aparadhs is that they can make us lose our taste for Krishna consciousness, or they will block our further advancement. So they're very serious. We should learn what they are and learn how to avoid them. But that's another discussion. Anything else?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Yeah, actually I was listening to Adi Gadadhar Prabhu recently. So Prabhuji was talking about Vaishnava aparadh. Lord Krishna can, tolerate aparadh to him, but he will not tolerate aparadh to a Vaishnava. And he gave a few very nice examples. I think we can discuss later.
Yeah, next week is more about those. We start talking about the positives and negatives. So here we're just talking about the purity of devotional service. And the point here is devotional service is so pure and powerful that there's no need for any additional correction, even if one does something wrong. Just chant the holy name. Now that applies a little differently in the cases of the offenses against the holy name, offenses against the Vaishnava. But the point is, this chanting is very, very powerful in itself. So we've discussed today, explained the eligibility for accepting and practicing and advancing in Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. We discussed ISKCON practice of claiming members from all sections of Western countries in relationship to the principles established by Rūpa Gosvāmī. And we discussed the independent nature of pure devotional service and how that is attained. Another final quote, "My dear Uddhava, any person who takes shelter of me in complete surrender and follows my instructions, giving up all occupational duties, is considered the first-class man. By the one stroke of devotional service, if someone gives up all obligations and simply surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is no longer a debtor, nor obliged to any other source of benefit." So Prabhupada is just guiding us here that when we surrender to Krishna, that takes care of all other duties. Now, does this mean that if we surrender to Krishna, we don't have to work anymore? That we can all quit our jobs, or we don't have to take care of our children anymore? No. Those are all services to Krishna that are required. So any other question or comment?
Prabhuji, I don't know if you already explained this earlier, but like we mentioned earlier that Krishna in Vrindavan is topmost and higher than Krishna in Dwaraka or Krishna in Vaikuntha. Not sure what that means, Prabhuji. So
Krishna, as he is in Vrindavan, is the topmost form of Godhead. And those who are devotees of Krishna in that form, in Vrindavan, are therefore considered the topmost level of devotees. Is there something more than that you wanted to know?
Yeah, go ahead.
Then what will be our mood when we worshipping or praying to the Lord? Like how will I know that which form I'm worshipping? Like if I want to do Vrindavan, looking Krishna Vrindavan, how do I approach that way?
Well, of course, Prabhupada is always directing us towards Krishna and Vrindavan. That is our goal, that is our whole discussion, that is the presentation of all the acharyas that we're following. Our disciplic succession is focused on that only. So, and what does Krishna know that we're doing in our heart? Yes, Krishna knows what we're thinking in our heart. But in our study and learning, we should learn Krishna and Vrindavan, who he is, how he acts. And we should learn how the acharyas and Prabhupada advise us to worship that same Krishna. And we should hear and chant about his activities, pastimes, and qualities. This is what the later parts of Nectar Devotion focuses on after chapter 19, is the qualities specifically of Krishna and the Leelas and how those qualities are manifest. What are examples of the manifestation of those qualities? And what are his different, rasas that he enters into with the devotees? Anything else?
So Prabhuji, when Krishna was in Vrindavan, it was basically all the sweet association with Mother Yashoda and all the gopis and all the playful pastimes. Once he goes out of Vrindavan, then we have all this killing and violent things going on.
Well, there's violent ones in Vrindavan also. Krishna kills Aghasur, he kills Putana, he kills so many demons. Practically killed at least one demon every day.
That's true too. Yeah, because there is one group of people, who prefer Bal Gopal, which is in child form. It's not in child form. I don't know if that is what is being referred to or something else.
That's a specific group, Vaishnavas. They're worshipping a form of Krishna, yes. We don't particularly follow them, but we can recognize them if they're sincere followers, because these people do ultimately, I believe, accept Lord Chaitanya. If they're the ones I'm aware of. I don't know which ones you're talking.
Okay, because like when we visualize Krishna, for example, if you go to ISKCON temples, then Krishna is always in the adult form, except of course we have, the, with Mother Yashoda, the pastimes. But so basically, I'm trying to understand whether, like when we visualize Krishna, it should always be in the adult form, which normally in all ISKCON temples, with Balaram in an adult form. But then when they say we should not, like Krishna in Dwaraka is also adult, and Krishna in Vaikuntha, of course, is eternal. So, yeah, go ahead.
Well, Krishna with the gopis, Krishna is a youth. We say up to the age of 16. After that, he goes to Mathura and Dwarka. Then he's no longer that youth. It's a different age for him. And then after he's married, that's further. So in Vrindavan, he's not really, quote unquote, an adult. He's a youth.
Right. So, this doesn't mean that it recommends any particular age of Krishna. When I say age, means like while he was, present in physical body on earth. So it's not recommending that as a youth, like when we pray to Krishna, that is a slightly higher quality than when he's an adult or anything like that.
Well, I will explain it to you this way. Krishna as a youth is the epitome of all his attractions. He is the most attractive. And he exhibits all the rasas most completely. As a young child, he doesn't exhibit the conjugal rasa. That is not there until he's a youth. So it is not as full. So this form of Krishna and Vrindavan as a youth is the most complete form.
Okay.
It's okay. It's nothing wrong with worshiping the other forms, but Acharyas accept this form of Krishna as a youth to be the ideal form, and it is most attractive. And there's certainly nothing wrong with it. Shrivilas, do you have anything to say?
No, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
All right, so next class, I think we're going to cover chapter 6 and 7. I believe it's 6 and 7. Chapter 8 will be the offenses. We'll start talking about offenses. And there's definitely lots of those. So there's lots of services we can do, and there's lots of offenses we can commit. And it's important to know, just like if you're driving the car. You both have to know how to drive it to keep it nicely on the road, but you also have to know, what are the laws so that you don't break the laws. Some other question, comment?
Thank you, Prabhu. I'll be sharing the link for the audiobook in case someone is interested.
I can, yes. It's not, those audio links are not divided exactly as our classes go, so I have to see. I stopped posting because I didn't get any indication anybody was really listening to me.
Yes. So I can post the YouTube. It's all in like a one playlist, and it's split by chapter. So, yeah, if anyone wants to hear those, they can hear.
Yeah, definitely chapters 6 and 7. I recommend you look at them because we're going to go really through them, and you may not be able to answer all your questions in detail if you have detailed questions. But if you don't, if it's just your first time hearing everything, it's going to be a little bit bewildering. So you have to read through it. In fact, even if you want to read chapter 8, that would also be good because it's relatively short. It's only 4 pages. And this topic of blasphemy or speaking against devotees or the Lord is covered at the beginning of chapter 9. All right. Jai, all glories to Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī, all glories to Śrīla Prabhupada, all glories to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
রে ইন্টারনেটটা কি অফ করে দিলি নিশু?